Carson, this is DCarsonCPA on the MFC lines. We're going to talk today about data problems in the AP lines. Data problems in the AP lines seem like a simple thing, but they're a pretty important thing because my estimation, some 70% of your activity in the balance sheet and the P&L are coming out of the AP lines. And the AP lines that may or may not include the payroll lines, but for purpose of this discussion, we're talking about AP exclusive of payroll and the type of fun things that happen in the payroll cycle. For the data problems in the AP lines, we're going to consider that you have an accounts payable subledger. Subledger represents the point where invoices have come into your business. The accounts payable clerk, your accountant, whomever is responsible has coded that information and confirmed it into the financials, or has received an IT feed that's brought it in, and they're in the process of coding and confirming that. IT feeds coming in today. There's also people out there in the field in the cloud, salespeople and different persons, and also clients, being out in the field, incurring expenses, those expenses coming back to your business, potentially being items that you can charge back. There's a lot of complexity on those lines, but we're just doing a simple conversation. Someone's out there, they've incurred expense, it comes into your accounts payable lines, it's an invoice to your clerks, or it's an automated feed into your code and confirm lines. Accounts payable clerks are working with the data in your business to code and confirm it, to post it to the AP subledger. Then they're going to make sure that the exceptions are covered, meaning that exceptions are you typically don't have complete data, you've got incorrect classification, you have incomplete information coming from these parties here, and that's part of the complication of the cycle to get it from a subledger to the ledger, which in turn goes to the balance sheet. Your P&L populates and updates them. Accounts payable is a liability account. It resides in your liabilities and the assets, liabilities, and equity of your balance sheet, and it populates on the other side your expense lines primarily within your P&L and the financials, and the revenue, expense, and income statement lines. So next over here we're going to talk about what are the qualities of information that go into accounts payable and what might be some of the problems. The problems will be when this information is insufficient to support a full entry cycle, and that means that when you're over here trying to code and confirm, you've generated an exception batch, and exception batches are delays in your processing cycle, typically communications and information delays between parties here and parties here. What the clerks need to do is they need some guidance. In the front end, you need to talk with the clerks and people that are out here incurring expenses with the ability to purchase, with the ability to go out and T&E on your business, meaning that they're incurring travel and business expenses out in the field. They need to give some predictive discussion to the clerks, especially for non-routine items. There are recurring items that your clerks will be aware of that come in the lines, but you definitely need a good process of communication between the leadership on financials and clerks at this point. And if you don't have that, or if there's things that need to be tightened up, that's typically a delay into your financial production cycle. Next point in the line, communication cycles. Again, we're going to repeat. It's the training of clerks up front for the types of expenses that are normal and ordinary for your business, and the ability of people that are out in the field, clients to this business center, or actual clients of yourself, if you are doing bookkeeping, to get the right information from these people out here. And the people that are out in the field incurring expenses will typically, they'll charge it to a card. It can come in from a bank statement. They can, in this day and age, take a mobile snapshot of an invoice, send it in. That's great. It's automated. It's got a copy of the invoice. You can capture it to your ledger. But what you really need also is you need information like dates, codes, which are typically provided by the clerk. You need amounts, meaning the accounts payable clerk. You need references. You need classification. Here's the most important part of all. Your expense clerk is a reporter. They need to know information defined as who, what, when, where, how, and why, same as reporters need in business articles. But essentially what they need to do is be able to substantiate it, and the who, what, when, where, and why speaks to substantiation of expenses in the data lines for accounts payable, for your GAAP, for financial reporting purposes if you're a public entity, for private company awareness, and for your tax lines. You have a responsibility when you've captured accounts payable and you have expenses which will in turn most likely be reported out to your tax return at that period of time for quarterly or year-end taxes. You have a responsibility to record who, what, when, where, how, and why on business expenses, on your T&E, on donations, on whatever you've got flowing through these expense cycles. And what typically will make that a harder process at a close time is your clients could be a CEO, a salesperson, a business leader, very much engaged in the business, not in everyday contact, somewhat hard for the clerks to reach, and that will produce reconciling items, as we call them, or exceptions within the subledger to ledger process where accounts payable is posting to your financials. So these will be the Achilles heel of your close process, the complication, the data problems, the AP lines. correspond to communications gaps between your clerks and those people with authorities to incur expenses on behalf of your business. And the basic piece of information you're trying to bring back is, hey, what is this that you've incurred and where does it fit into my structure of accounts? So hence I can populate the balance sheet, which is pretty straightforward because the offset, but really the expense side of where the specific classification is. Now, accounting is not just about capturing this information simply, it's about the whole exercise of classification. It's a classification science about how to take data and get it into the right bucket so that when you run your financial reports, well, balance sheet, again, it's one line item, so it's not going to be a surprise there. What you really want to make sure is that line item is complete, timely, and accurate to the best of its ability, looking at your accounts payable. And then on this side in the P&L, what you want to do is make sure that your expenses are properly classified, because if you've got an invoice that comes in, and let's say it's an auto rental expense, and it ends up over here on interest expense, well, clearly you've got a problem. Again, that will cycle back to communications lines and a process of review, not only for the first round of matching it, because it's not easy enough you match accounts payable to general ledger, but then you're going to find that even in the general ledger, just because it matches sub-ledger to ledger, you can have miscoding problems. So these are all things that happen within the closed cycle of business. But my suggestion to you is to work with communications with your accounts payable and entry clerks, get a good line of communications between your senior leaders or people with the ability to go out and incur expenses and the people that are picking up the expenses here. The better you do that, the more timely they clarify information, and your clerks need to be told what important part of the business they are, because an accounts payable clerk typically may be neglected, and if you don't communicate with accounts payable clerks and let them know that important piece of the business they are, or any data entry clerk, the value of the information caught correctly the right time, the first time around, strengthens your close process, improves the quality of your balance sheet and your P&L because you're getting more timely information into the balance sheet for the offsets and more descriptive information into the expense lines in the P&L to make sure that your buckets are properly breaking out the invoices to the point where if it's electricity expense, you see electricity and not interest expense or some other abstraction where a line can go in and get miscoded. That is a relevant point that always happens in financials. It's part of the closed cycle to look at those items. But in overview, there's a quick line to data problems of the AP lines. It's a little bit longer than I want it to be. Hopefully it's somewhat insightful. And there's much more to the details where we can help. There's a lot of problems related to AP. There were other things I didn't even begin to cover here that are important points. But we just want to introduce something where you can see it, connect, and hopefully our style and ability to communicate matches your interest to work with us, and we can help in the AP and technology lines. This is about the lines of getting good, timely financial information through your accounts payable cycle, troubleshooting for some of the data problems in the lines, and getting some more timely, relevant financial information, which in turn will help on other lines further out of taxation compliance, analysis, and key needs you have to lead your business with efficiency and with a strong command of the understanding of your expense lines and where they are in your business. I'm Dean Carson. Check out DCarsonCPA MFC on web. DCarsonCPA is our overall line of research mapped into support lines and services where we meet. I'm a CPA. I can help on accounting, financials, taxes, and much more. And this is a little bit about the financials plus the technology lines, because in this day and age, the two are pretty much inseparable. They're closely intertwined. They both have important value to help your business, and we're here to do that. Thank you very much. Bye now.